Hey everybody, Stu Smith here going live. Hope you guys are well. Today we have a Tuesday, and that means we're going to show some CSS videos and discuss them. Just see what people are doing right, what people are doing wrong, and see if you can pick up some pieces of advice and techniques to swim a little faster, whether that's with fins or without fins. So we're going live over here on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook all at the same time using StreamYard. If you guys have questions, you can send them in. I am going to just jump right into sharing some videos and we will get moving as soon as they pop up. All right, so we have a ton to go through today. Looks like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5, maybe 6, 7. So let's get to it. About to kill me. All right. So, going to share my screen here. You guys should be able to see this. It's a guy preparing for dive school. Let's see what this looks like. So, he's going to kick off the wall. Good streamline. I like that. Double arm pull, solid. Transitions into the stroke nicely. Okay, not bad. I think you could be a little tighter on your recovery. Keep those hands a little closer to your torso. They're not bad, but you could be closer, a little tighter. Hold that glide a little longer. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, pull. Probably pull in a second fast. It's not bad. That's like, this is a meter pool. So that was probably just over a yard per second. Here's something going on. I can tell like this right here is your strong side. That just kick looks so much better. Looks like you're right-handed and you got a right-handed kick. Watch what happens when you change sides and you do a left-handed kick. It looks like you're right-handed trying to throw left-handed. You see it, just that top leg just not quite as good as this one, right? So it takes a little practice on your weak side to get better. Probably a little bit slower on your weak side because of it. So my advice is to maybe stay on your strong side a little more, unless it is a rule where you're going to be tested that you have to change strong side, weak side every time. I don't think it is normally, but it could be. I have seen that pop up every now and then where the instructor's on side of the pool deck and you have to be facing the instructor the whole time. That means one side's going strong, one side's going weak. Every length you do changes. It's not a rule that's written. It's not normally enforced, but every now and then it is just one of those arbitrary rules that someone's going to throw at you just to see how you handle a little bit of change or adversity. So, my advice is this: practice both sides like you're doing. Turn your head with the hand. Like if you look at this one, top arm and your hand turns pretty close to with your arm pull, like you got a string tied to your nose and your top hand, like it should pull your face out of water, and then you inhale with the bottom arm. If you notice this one, the timing's a little off. See how you have top arm, that top arm pulls and your face is still underwater. It should be turning out of the water by now, because here's what happens. Now you have to turn your head, bottom arm pull, and inhale all at the same time. And it's just awkward. Then you got an awkward kick to go with it. So that's just something you got to work on. But I will say it's not bad. It's just you got to fix your kick on your weak side. All right, let's see what else we got here. Got a whole bunch of these. So if you guys have questions, you can send them whenever you want. All right, let's make sure you guys can see this. All right, ooh, what's going on here? All right, a little bit of a, don't need it so big. There you go. That's probably a little better. All right, so we're going to kick off the walk solid. I like this. Double arm pull, a little awkward. You're a good candidate to take that double arm pull out for sure. Top arm, bottom arm, kick and glide. I think this arm recovery is just a little awkward, little slow. You got that high elbow coming up. Probably need to keep that elbow down. You could be a candidate for what someone calls sharking. Just be a little quicker with that recovery. It doesn't need to be so methodical, right? Looks like you're a robot on that arm recovery. Just whoosh, send it in there. Don't take your time scraping upside your hip. It's just it's putting a pause into this swim that doesn't need to be there. Like shoot it up right now. Boom. Top arm, bottom arm. Start opening your legs with that bottom arm pull and then kick and recover. All right. So a little bit of a timing issue that needs to be fixed here. Top arm, bottom arm. That top arm could look more like a freestyle catch too. If you notice, it looks kind of like a omnidirectional windmill, right? You're just like whoosh, right? Need to grab water, pull with your forearms. It's called a freestyle catch. Watch some videos called the freestyle catch, and you will get better at pulling with that arm. And if you're doing freestyle, it's obviously going to help you as well. Let's see what else we got over here. Looks like I'm got any questions. I'll take a little break from videos and then we'll go into questions. Good morning, Mr. Smith. What is your opinion on trail running for ankle strength, replacing running with boots? I mean, we run trails. I will say this. I don't like running trails without boots just because, you know, the trails we run, there's a lot of little roots and things that are sticking up, and they're ready, prime time for ankle breakers. And in the fall, when there's leaves over the trail, we just quit running because lesson learned, we'd probably have 2 ankle sprains every time we ran a trail in the fall. So we just, once the leaves cover the trail, we don't do it. But if we do run with trails, it's definitely with boots. Though I will sometimes run them in zero drop shoes, like my zeros. Just because if you're running on kind of like high, um, like thick running shoes and very wobbly ground, it's like running in high heels. You're just going to twist an ankle. So I don't know if it's great for ankle strength or not, but it's definitely a challenge for not breaking your ankle. I don't know if that makes it better or not, but I like trail running for sure. Any tips on scissor kicks? I've seen your drills or NSW drills, but I don't have a proper buoy, but I purchased one. It doesn't matter what you have as a buoy, just hold on to something that floats and kick and glide. Kick and glide. It's just top leg goes forward, bottom leg goes backwards. It should look like, have you ever done B skips as a dynamic stretch warm up? Right? You know, you bring that knee up and whip it down. That's probably the best piece of explanation I've given in a while as a coach to non-swimming athletes, like people who use dynamic warm-ups for sports and they're doing B skips or B steps. That's a good description of how that top leg should look. That back leg should come up almost like a butt kicker and push water down with the top of the foot. So I'm going to show you some scissor kicks here in a minute. But yeah, that's how we do it. And we do this one workout, and I don't know if you've seen that article I have called Fix Your Kick. There's a swim workout in there using a kickboard drill. Fix your kick. In fact, I'll put it up in here in the comment section for you. Let me see here. Where are you? Comment section. I'll put it over here. Fix your kick over here on YouTube channel. And I'll put it over here on Instagram. You guys should be able to see that. And go to that article and see the workout in there. It's basically you do 25 with a kickboard and then 50 without it. And you do that for 10 sets. So it's 750 yards, but you're getting 10 25-yard kicks and 50 CSSs afterwards. So you start implementing that kick into your CSS almost immediately. Let's see. Looks like we got that. What's your opinion on zone 2 running? I mean, I think it's definitely a solid way to build up your aerobic engine. Science says it is. Even though I don't necessarily and specifically say, hey, go do zone 2 running, a lot of the runs that we do turn into zone 2 runs just because. Like if we're running sprints one day on a hill, it takes us 2 miles to get to this hill. It's a nice, easy jog to that hill. And then we run sprints and then we do a nice, easy jog back. Turns out we do some zone 2 running without even saying we do zone 2 running. And both are very helpful. Sprints up a hill and zone 2 running are great. So yeah, I don't have a problem with zone 2 running. Where I have a problem with is people throwing in a 10-mile run outside of their running progression just to add an hour long or whatever 2-hour long zone 2 workout. Way too much. More is not better. I mean, if you do just a couple of miles of zone 2, 30 minutes of zone 2, that's fine. In fact, what we will do is if we're doing like an aerobic focused day, we'll spend 20 minutes on a bike, zone 2 stuff, and then we'll go do 20 minutes of running. You get 40 minutes of cardio and half the impact. That's for folks who don't need extra miles in the running, but they need more zone 2. I usually do that with bigger athletes who are anaerobic monsters, like linemen, for instance, but they got very little aerobic ability and they're trying to lose weight. Been staying with the local schedule, averaging 20, 25 miles a week. Was thinking about adding 10% a week till January, till I ship at 50. Yeah, I think that's fine. I have no problem with that. In fact, if you want to get up to that before you leave, I think that's solid. Here's the deal. Treat boot camp like a taper if you're going Navy and Air Force, because you're not going to run a lot. You're going to run some, but not a lot. I mean, the last class that just graduated said they think they ran about 10 miles in 8 weeks. So do the math on that. That's not a lot of running, especially if you're doing 50 miles a week. It's going to be a taper for you. It's going to be an 8-week taper. Take advantage of it. Lick your wounds. Do some extra workouts before bed, after, when you wake up first thing in the morning, wake up 30 minutes early, get a little extra workout in. Hopefully there's a SEAL group there that's helping people prepare. I think they're supposed to be there now this new fiscal year. All right. Hey, looks like I got these questions over here. I got one more and then we'll do some more videos real quick. Do you think weight vest walking and hiking is a good intro to rucking? Absolutely. How do you recommend to progress from there up to a full load and speed? I would say this. I said, go for a walk, with 25 pounds. Go for a hike with 25 pounds. See how that feels. And you should be running also, like running your normal running without weight, whatever progression you're on. And then try a ruck, which is really just faster walking, maybe a shuffle. It's not a run when you ruck with weight. And then try it. Try it with try a few miles with your backpack on or your weight vest on. That'll work. I have a couple of running and rucking progressions, but it's same logical process. 10%, add 10% a week to your weight vest, add 10% of mileage to your, I mean, you could go 15 if you wanted to, 15% every week to your mileage and progress logically. The thing where people go wrong is they're running maybe 12 miles a week and then they go do a 10-mile ruck with 50 pounds and they wonder why they're jacked up, right? Progress into that. Do a couple miles with 20 pounds. That's fine. Build up. Give yourself a couple of months before you get up into a full pack load and full speed, at least. And you shouldn't be beginning running either. All right. Looks like I got all these questions. Let's show some videos here. All right. Showed this one. Showed this one. I think we're just going to re-show this one. I like this one. This is one, if you're looking for swimming with fins, this is it. In fact, this is just right from my Instagram page, even on my TikTok page. Just kicking. Yep. Just kicking. Oh, you guys see that? What the heck happened? I guess it died. So anyway, what you're seeing here, kick, 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 pull and breathe. Kick, 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 pull and breathe. And you see how he's kicking there? Doesn't look like he's riding a bicycle. I mean, some people look like they're actually pedaling a bicycle. So if you feel like you're bending your knees too much, he's got a slight bend in it, but he's using his hips. That's where you get all your power when you swim with fins. Kick, 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 pull to breathe. Kick, 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 pull to breathe. And you should feel it in your hips. Shouldn't just be in your thighs and hamstrings, like, bent knee kicking. I wish I had one that looks like you're riding a bicycle, but I know I have one on one of my reels or TikToks, shows exactly what I'm talking about, like riding a bicycle. It shouldn't look like that. All right, this is probably one of the best underwater swims I've seen. All right, so check this out. Kicks off the wall. Boom. Look at that streamline. That is a tight streamline. He glides. Man, that's a 10-yard glide before he even did a stroke. That's a streamline for you. And he's deep. It's easier when you go deeper doing these underwater swims. I mean, that's smooth. Kick and glide. Double arm pull. Look at that glide. I mean, he gets 2 body links per stroke there. And then probably gets a body link with the kick and recovery. Boom. That's solid. The goal is, and this is a 50-meter swim too, by the way, and it only took him about 50 seconds. Let's count his strokes in a 50. You want to see it again? Let's just see it again. So it kicks off the wall, super streamline, holds that glide, double arm pull, holds that glide, kicks and recovers. That's 1 pull. There's 2 pulls. There's 3 pulls. I'm betting about under 8. 4 pulls. It's pretty good. 5 pulls. 6 pulls. This is good. 7 pulls. Oh, maybe not 8. 8 pulls. Boom. Now, it's going to be 9 or 10, but I will say this. If he would have done it in a 25-yard pool where he goes down and back and he gets that kick off the wall again, he probably would have done 3 or 4 strokes going down, 3 or 4 strokes coming back. That's smooth. I like that. Nice work. Um, let's see. Let's see here. Where am I? Got some more CSS videos. All right, you guys see this? Let me pop it up. All right, here we go. Kick off the wall, double arm pull. Ooh, you're definitely a good candidate for taking out that double arm pull. Um, top arm. Oh yeah, way too much head bobbing. Notice what happens. This is why I tell people don't pop their head up. Watch what happens to his feet. You see his feet drop right alongside as his head rises. So you want to stay flat in the water. And when you lift your head up, boom, your feet drop. Now you're trying to go through the water diagonally, which adds a lot of resistance. Your force vectors aren't lined up to be streamlined, and you're just plowing the water with your whole body, really. So turn your head to breathe. Don't pop up to breathe. My advice here would be let's practice some freestyle and where you turn to breathe and half your face is in the water, when you're breathing. Um, keep that bottom ear in the water. It's probably my biggest cue for most people is don't let that bottom ear come out of the water. Don't add those flutter kicks. So you got top arm, bottom arm. Bottom arm's way too big. Just do a little skull with that bottom arm. Push down if you need to, and then in because that'll lift you up versus you popping your head up to do it. But overall, this isn't horrible. You got the timing down. We just got to fine tune. We got to get a better arm pull, like you're doing a freestyle catch, because you're just swinging your arm in any direction, really. Um, so freestyle catch. I want you to Google that term. Then um, practice some freestyle, turning to breathe versus popping up to breathe. Like the first move of the CSS looks exactly like the freestyle stroke. In fact, if I'm doing freestyle, I'm going to turn to breathe right here and then bring that arm back over. If I'm doing CSS, I'm going to turn to breathe right here, use the bottom arm, recover back under. So it's first 25% are the exact same movement. So practice a little freestyle turning to breathe, and that's exactly how it's going to feel in the CSS when you turn to breathe. And anybody can teach you freestyle, crawl stroke, because it's a competitive stroke and every swimmer knows how to do it and every swim coach knows how to do it. Not everybody knows how to do the CSS because it's a weird stroke that only the military uses. All right, looks like I've done this one. I might have gone through all my videos. Yeah, looks like it. All right. Well, let's take some questions in. What do you guys got? Looks like David says, I'm 5'8", 150, 17, junior in high school. I passed the IFT very proficiently. Would you recommend putting on weight prior to PJ selection? Yeah, I'd recommend putting on weight and putting on a few years. I mean, it's great to be 18 years old and in the military, but why be in a rush? Go take a EMT course at the local community college before you go. Get better, even better at training because it's a lot more than just the IFT. There's a lot of pool skills involved. There's running and rucking and load bearing activities that you'll also do through selection. So 150 pounds is pretty small, especially for load bearing activities. You're probably great in the pool. Good job. But don't be in a hurry to join. You know, there's a massive window to join the Air Force. Like it goes from 17, 18 years old all the way to 40, 38 maybe. I'm not 100% sure exactly, but well in the 30s, 39 maybe, I think it is. There's a reason for that. Is it's not a kid's job. You know, they like mature people to go through it. I will tell you this, if they wouldn't allow teenagers to go to buds or any spec ops selection, I guarantee you the attrition rate would be probably at least cut in half. At least cut in half. Most people who show up there are not prepared mentally or physically or emotionally to go through a selection. They just aren't. And that's you look at the statistics, that's the way it is. You know, I personally know for a fact 18-year-old Stu would not have made it through buds. 100%. 4 years later at 22 did. Because I learned how to train. I was just a football meathead in the weight room, football playing meathead. Had no idea what military fitness was. So just a thought. Don't mean to crush your dreams, but don't be in a hurry. That's my only advice. You know, at least get over homesickness while you're not in the military. How much time do you lose from running with running shoes on concrete to boots on sand? Or does it depend on the person? I wouldn't say it depends on the person. It depends on the sand because if it's soft sand, it's going to slow you down significantly. It'd probably add at least a minute, maybe 2 minutes per mile to your current running pace on concrete. If it's hard pack sand, it's pretty similar because most of the buds runs at your 4 mile time run at buds, it's done on hard pack beach sand. So that is not the same as when they run you in the soft sand, which sucks. You just still got to stay in the pack. But the 4 mile timed runs are done on hard pack sand. And I wouldn't call it similar to concrete, but I would call it similar to turf. Running on turf on inside a track, it's pretty compact. But boots are a big difference. Boots and pants can slow you down a little bit too. Maybe 30 seconds per mile, maybe. Add about that to your pace. So you got to get used to that. 17 to 39 for U.S. Air Force Special Warfare enlisted option. It's a big window. In fact, that's not even a window. A window is 17 to 21. A barn door, garage door is what 17 to 39 is. Got wide time. Don't be in a hurry. What is a proficient way to breathe when conducting the CSS? Should I be exhaling the entire time underwater or should I hold? I don't like to hold. It'd be like running and holding your breath for a stride. So whenever you inhale, you can start exhaling underwater almost immediately. I usually, because after you inhale, what do you do next? Kick and hold that glide. You get about 2-3 seconds worth of glide time. You're turning to breathe again. So you can get in a rhythm of breathing and inhaling and exhaling. Just watch some videos. You'll see it. Their bubbles should be coming out of the mouth while they're underwater. And then when they turn their face with that arm pull and they take that inhale with that second arm pull, you're right there. All right. In your first phase to buds, there's very little rucking and it increases in second and phase 2 and 3. If I'm not feeling my joints hit too bad, is there any reason not to add more sooner? Yeah, you can add more sooner. I mean, I don't do it in this one because I'm not focused on it. What am I focused on? It's the Navy PST workout. It has nothing to do with buds. It's going to help you for SEAL, SWIC, EOD diver, rescue swimmer, SARC. You need to pass this first. Now, I do have some buds similar workouts. There's 4-mile timed runs, there's swimming with fins, there's treading, all of those skills. There's drown proofing, right? So it is fairly buds like, but the focus is crushing that PST and getting a little bit stronger as you go with other muscle stamina and endurance activities. This is going to start adding load bearing activities to your day just to be able to handle the runs, though you won't ruck. We use rucking to prepare for logs and boats. We'll ruck on the beach to prepare for boats and logs. Running on the beach, just getting stronger. Yeah. If you want to add it, sure, go ahead. I don't think it's necessary, but go into the next cycle a little bit more prepared if you want. I'm sore after my AFT last weekend. Been letting myself go lately. Yeah, that happens. The AFT is no joke. If you're not used to lifting heavy, running fast, doing some of those exercises, I tell you what, chest, if you're not used to doing the hand release movement, that chest stretch make you feel like you bench pressed the day before, super heavy, and you haven't lifted in a while too. I mean, it'll get you. I like that test, be honest with you. All right. Every ocean swimming buds, do you get a life vest or is it only in certain situations? Yeah, every swim you will have what they call a UDT life vest on. It is inflatable. It is not designed to keep you afloat. However, you will have a wetsuit on that will add buoyancy to you. So you will float with that wetsuit most of the time, especially in salt water. In fresh water, you may not float with a wetsuit, but in salt water, you will definitely float with a wetsuit. Most people float in salt water anyway, even without a life jacket. But yeah, you'll have it, and it's a CO2 activated cartridge. So in an emergency, you will pull your life vest CO2 cartridge. You'll be like this, all jacked up. But yeah, either you or your buddy will pull that in an emergency. How would you recommend getting over homesickness if you've never been to college? It's a good question. We've had people move here to train with me, and they found a job, found a place to stay, and got over homesickness while they were just training with me. That's one way to do it. I mean, I hate to say move out of your house and go do something if it doesn't make any sense. But it may not work for you to get over homesickness. It didn't work for me. I was 18 years old, went straight to the Naval Academy. I knew I had 4 years of college at the academy before I was actually in the military. We were in the military, but put it this way. If I do 20 years, those 4 years at the academy don't count. There's a reason for that. So you're wearing a uniform, but you're not officially in the military. But I was officially away from home, and that sucked. It sucked whenever you are being asked to work harder than you've ever worked before, academically and athletically, physically, and you start failing things you're not used to failing. Your girlfriend breaks up with you, you miss home, all of that comes at one moment. And it is usually what crushes teenagers to either do one of two things. They either like say, yeah, this I can't do this. I'm not prepared, or they get injured because they're not physically prepared. Where a lot of young people make the mistake of joining the military when they're young, especially if they're doing a highly physical job. If they're doing a highly technical job, completely different story. They need nukes, they need cyber warfare guys. It's something that is a little bit different. Your physicality doesn't really matter as much. But if you're not even through growing yet, it can be a eye-opening experience to show up to a spec ops selection and you're a 17, 18-year-old kid whose last big event was high school prom, and now you're at a spec ops selection with men who are 24, 25, 26 years old, tatted up, you know, can drink on the weekends if they want to. Um, you just feel out of place. And it is remarkable whenever you get an 18, 19-year-old kid who graduates buds. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, they are next level Renaissance men, if you ask me, to see that. But they're few in number. They start off massive in number. Like 100 people in a class might be teenagers, but then you'll graduate 4 or 5 of them at the end of 6 months. Really, after Hell Week. So that's my big challenge to you guys is just don't be in a hurry. You know, recruiter's going to want you there 17 with parents' permission, or 18. Just don't talk to them until you're really ready. That's where most people screw up. They go talk to a recruiter and don't even know what the PST is. That's a good chunk of people who show up at buds. People who found out that they have to take a 500-yard swim their first time walking into a recruiter's office. So, yeah, that's just lazy and immature. I still have under 2 years until I would ship for PJ selection. That's good. Would my best bet be using the seasonal tactical fitness program that you provide? Will I be able to put on size with that? Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you eat. If you want to get big, you got to lift big and eat big. This program we're doing right now, I don't know if you've seen our Instagram pictures, but we're lifting. We're lifting heavy. We're firemen carrying people that are same body weight. We are doing load bearing activities that are very useful for your training. That fall winter lift cycle is no joke. A lot of guys that are your age put on 10, 15 pounds of muscle, and they still get faster with their PSTs and IFTs. So yeah, that's a good system. I took a good year and a half, 2 years to fully prepare for spec ops selection. Because if I didn't, there's no way I would have made it. I was, like I said, I had to turn myself into a muscle stamina endurance guy. I ran, I biked, I swam, and I did calisthenics for nearly 2 years. I didn't even touch a weight, but on occasion. I train with you in the mornings, by the way. I haven't asked you that, and I never went to school. I don't know what you're asking. What is this question? Let's see. And then getting on the IFT prep program closer to selection. Sure, that's a great option. I mean, you can do it now if you wanted to, the IFT, just to get a good base under you. Then that will objectively tell you where your strengths and weaknesses are because you got lifting you got to do in the OFT. You have calisthenics and cardio that you have to do in the IFT. That's going to tell you a pretty big spectrum of strengths and weaknesses on the tactical fitness scale, right? Strength, power, speed, agility, endurance, muscle stamina, grip, flexibility, mobility. All of those are very important to becoming durable and have some work capacity and be tough enough to get through training. So it's a good book to do because it will tell you the truth, where you are. Then from there, you focus on that weakness. Is it strength? Go into a lift cycle. Is it cardio and calisthenics? Go into a cardio and calisthenics cycle. All right, looks like we answered that one. What is the minimal cardio that can be done weekly instead of 10 to 12 miles in winter cycle if goal is to gain weight? Minimal amount of cardio. I don't know, to be honest with you. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. But just remember, any time you're doing cardio, and I would put this to the, I would say this. If you're doing 10 minutes of cardio, you probably need to add 50 to 100 more calories not to lose weight. Does that make sense? So every 10 minutes you do a cardio, add 50 calories to your day. There you go. See what that does. That'll probably help you maintain. And if you're trying to gain, with eating more, it would take away any cardio that you do from taking away from your weight gain. That's how you answer it. Especially if you want to stay in good shape, you got to do cardio. We run in the winter lift cycle. Not a whole lot, but we'll run and we'll still get some running done, but it's usually shorter and faster running. Somebody said, how far out from selection should I hop on the IFT book? Well, IFT book is, let's see, I think it's 12 weeks plus another 4 weeks of OFT prep. So it's 16 weeks long. Yeah, 16 weeks long. So that's 4 months. So I would say 4 to 5 months before you go to boot camp, you should be tearing up this IFT. Yeah, eating and diet is a skill you should learn. Yeah, we all should learn for sure. I've been doing 5 months of calisthenics after having weights and boxing background. What's your opinion on incorporating weights to prepare for buds? I think some people need it. I think some people don't need it. It depends. Powerlifting football players, college football players don't need to lift. In fact, I kick them out of the weight room and say, go hang out with the cardio machines or go to the pool, right? However, the guys that are coming in with an endurance background, swimmers, runners, rowers, even, they need to get in and start lifting. Yeah. Get used to being a little bit stronger. Rowers, maybe not so much, but they're a non-impact sport, though they run a lot because of cardio. So they're usually pretty good with running. I may have to put them in the pool a little bit, but definitely the endurance guys, bikers, triathletes, runners, swimmers, definitely need to be in the weight room. My advice is this: assess yourself, figure out where your strengths and weaknesses are, and hit them. That's your primary answer to how you should train for buds. And if you don't know what your weaknesses are, use this assessment tool. It's just a bunch of charts that have a variety of exercises and scores on them. And these scores are the scores that over the last 15 years, maybe even 20 years, my guys have hit and have been successful. It's kind of like a successful average score for a variety of events, from running, rucking, swimming with fins, calisthenics, lifting weights, doing certain workouts. How do you do on them? Are in there as well. That's what you need to do. Figure out where you need to be. You may not need to lift weights. You may need to lift weights. Do your guys lose strength when they switch from season book to their selection specific book? Not necessarily. I mean, here's the deal. If you're a power lifter, you come into this game really strong. Your 1 rep max will start getting less just because you're not focused on 1 rep maxes anymore, because you don't need to, right? So if you're looking at that, you're looking in the wrong direction, right? You still will be strong. What does that mean? That may mean instead of benching 350, you do your body weight 20 times, right? Let's say you weigh 185, but you can do it 20 times. That's good. Really good. You put on a weight vest for 20 pounds, you can do 20 pull-ups. That's really good. That's strong and muscle stamina. You do a deadlift, you do 1.5, 2 point times your body weight. That's strong enough. You don't need to be world-class powerlifting out here doing 500, 600 pounds trying to do all this other stuff. It's just not needed. I mean, there are people who have never touched a weight and gotten through Spec Ops selection. I'm not saying that's a smart thing to do, but they were tough in other ways. They worked on a farm, or they worked in construction, or they had a history of doing hard things, heavy things, carrying things, but they never touched a weight. We had a kid in our buds class that grew up on a farm in North Carolina who baled hay all the time, and he was jacked, strong as hell, never touched a weight. Got through buds, could do 30 pull-ups, could run a 6-minute mile for 4 miles. It was insane. It's a beast. So do they lose strength? Yes and no. Right? If they're a power lifter, they're going to lose strength. You're not going to be happy with your 1 rep max if you love 1 rep maxes. But be honest with you, no one cares what you bench press when you go through buds. You'll still be strong and fast and durable. That's why you need to lift, to be more durable, so you don't break under a log or a boat or a ruck or fireman carrying somebody. Am I maximizing muscle gain if I am consuming 0.7, 0.8 grams of protein per pound? I've heard a lot of people say I should increase a gram per pound. Everybody's a little bit different. I don't have a good answer for you, to be honest with you. I mean, I would think you're maintaining muscle mass at the least, but it also depends on what kind of workouts you're doing. If you're working out to get stronger, you might not be working out to get bigger. If you're doing a hypertrophy program, you might be maxing muscle gain with that level of protein. All right. But if you're working on power and strength, you might not get much bigger. It's a little bit different. There's a range of reps that are going to determine if you're putting on muscle mass or you're putting on strength. So it's a little more complicated than that. Joe asks, what's my thoughts on the new Ranger PFT? I like it. I have no problem with it. I just updated this program here actually to reflect it as well. It's a good test. Guys, check it out. Do you recommend biking more to get more endurance for swimming with fins? I tend to get tired out towards the end of a long swim. Yeah, I think biking's solid. I love biking. I like to bike hard, like not easy biking, like stroll in the park biking. I like to bike resistance is high. It kind of sucks. At the end, I have this puddle of sweat under me. That's when I know it's working. Then you apply that to, and it could be zone 2 still. I mean, you could still do zone 2. You don't have to go crazy with it, and do crazy high resistance. But yeah, you should be making some body heat when you bike. It shouldn't just be a nice, easy, pedal. But yeah, absolutely. It'll help you with fins. It'll help you with rucking. It'll help you with running. It'll cut your impact in half if you're trying to get in good running shape. And it can help you. I've written a lot about biking workouts, by the way. In fact, if you go check out this article, Biking VO2 Max Stu Smith, you'll see an article that has brick workouts. There's this Hickson protocol that's really awesome. Check out this article. These articles, right? The workouts in this article, highly recommend doing them, especially if you need to lay off running miles a little bit. I'll put it over here on Instagram as well. But yeah, check out that. It's called the Hickson Protocol, Bricks, and Other VO2 Max Increasers, Half the Impact. And that's what it's designed for. It's designed to be in a running program. If you need to get more cardio, but you can't, I mean, it sucks when you're doing a running program, you're only running 10 miles a week. I mean, it just sucks, but it's smart to progress and start there. And it's not a whole lot of time. I mean, 10 miles a week, it might be 2 miles a day, 5 days a week, and you're looking at 15 minutes a day, maybe 16 if you're a little slower. Um, that's not enough running, I think. But too much is going to start putting knee tendonitis and stress fractures and shin splints and patella tendonitis and Achilles tendonitis, all this stuff that tends to happen when you run too much too soon. But you add in a bike for another 15, 20 minutes that day. Now you got 40 minutes of cardio with half the impact. Highly recommend that, especially people who are new to running. If you drop out of BUD/S, what jobs are available for enlisted? If you're lucky and you're a good candidate, you can go to dive school, you can go to EOD school, but usually they won't even acknowledge you going to those. Yeah, I've seen people even go to SWIC. But you have to be a couple of days into Hell Week before that happens. Like you can't just quit on day 1, week 1 and go to dive school. They're not even going to do it. The jobs after that might or might not be something you want to do. Be quite honest with you. You might be doing a job that the Navy needs you to do. You might go undesignated, which means when you get to your command, you're going to be doing everything that nobody else wants to do, and that's not fun. So don't do that to yourself. If there's a reason not to quit, it is that. 100%. If you need a reason, if you need a why, that's a good why. Because it can always be worse. You think it's cold, it's miserable, you're running on the beach. All you got to do is look out in the ocean in San Diego and you're going to see a Navy vessel out there. Not saying that's a horrible thing, but for some people, the jobs on that Navy vessel are not very, you don't want to do it for the rest of your life. Does that make any sense? Like, there are jobs in the Navy that people would do for free because they're just so cool. But there are some that they don't pay enough to because they're crappy jobs. So let that stick in for a little bit. When swimming CSS on the recovery to glide, I feel like I slow down a lot, create a lot of drag, bringing my arms up. Well, you got to be tighter. If you're out here like this, yeah, you're going to look like a plow. If you're in here like this, might look a little more like a torpedo. That's the key. Look like a torpedo, not a plow. What's your opinion on the volume I should be putting in swimming, calisthenics, running? Example, 20 miles a week, 1,000 plus push-ups before shipping out, as I heard a lot of about not peaking before going. Well, here's the deal. My advice is this, just the opposite. Peak, burn yourself out before boot camp, because 8 weeks of boot camp is the worst taper that you would ever want to do. You're probably going to run 10 miles in 8 weeks. You're probably going to do 30 or 40 push-ups in a workout, right? Nothing, you might do some plank poses a little bit. If you get in trouble a few times, you might get some more push-ups out of it. But really, you got to add your push-ups to it. I don't know. I mean, I haven't really looked at it as far as that. I mean, like running per week, some of these runs per week build up to, 30, 35 miles a week. We usually do 100 pull-ups, 150 pull-ups in a workout 2 to 3 times a week. So maybe anywhere from 300 to 450 on the pull-ups, a little bit more on the push-ups, maybe double that. But I don't think it really matters. What really matters is you doing consistent workouts, at the end of the week. Swimming, I'd say about 10,000 yards a week is sufficient. Make half of that with fins. So you're swimming 2 days a week with fins, at least a mile, mile and a half, just to get used to it. Adding 30 minutes of biking before runs has been great with increasing my capacity. Started adding 15 minutes of rowing before swims. I love it. Great job. I agree, 100%. That is a great 1-2 punch for cardio. And, rowing's great for pulling muscles. It's a great way to stay dry and work your lungs. And then you hop in the water, crank it out, and biking before running, 100%, man. 100%. I hear they're bringing back 800 division at boot camp. Is that true? I've been hearing they're bringing back 800 division at boot camp for the last year, and I haven't seen it yet. Some people say it's coming this next class, but I've heard people saying that for a long time. So I hope so. Hope they're bringing it back. I think they need it. All right, last question. How do you recommend ramping up to the SF Ranger program, especially running? Total volume have been issues making me stop and get healthy again. Well, my advice is this. This is a generic program. This is not your personalized training program, right? If it has in higher mileage than you're used to doing, then you shouldn't do it. You should do what's logical. So that may mean this. That may mean you see a 4-mile run, but you've already run that a couple of times in the week. It's getting over your weekly totals where you should be. So you replace 2 of those 4 miles with a 10-minute bike. So every mile you miss in this workout, you replace it with a 10-minute bike. Reduce the mileage. Don't get hurt. Don't jump into a program that says 20 miles a week when you're not even running 10 miles a week. That's not where you should be. I would do this. This is the great combo, the Army PFT workout. Now, they don't call it the PFT anymore. They call it the Army Fitness Test workout. So some acronyms have changed. Probably need to change the title. But this is all about preparing for the basics, and you can see it. Plus rucking preparation. It's going to prepare you for running progressively, rucking progressively, the lifts and the calisthenics that you have to do to get through boot camp and all those training programs. So they are logically in there. But If they're not at your level, remember, this is not a personalized program. You need to personalize it, right? If I have a workout where it has 100 pull-ups in it and you can only do 5, that's going to be a long day to get 100 pull-ups. I don't recommend doing it. You know, usually people who do 100 pull-ups in a workout pretty easily can do 20, right? And they can crank that out and, multiple sets and get 100 pull-ups in a multiple sets of a workout. So I hope that helps you. I mean, I think it's really important to understand that unless you have a personalized plan made for you, that any plan that you find on the internet, in a magazine, in a book, even though it's written for your goal, it may not be written for you at your personal fitness standard now. That's why it's hard to write generic programs for that. And you need to understand that, otherwise you're going to hurt yourself. Or could be the opposite. You could be running 30 miles a week. I only have you running 20 miles a week. What do you do? My advice, add miles. There you go. Yeah, I'm going to end with this because this is a really good point. John from Texas says, during boot camp, get creative. Of a few runs you get, run as fast as you can. Pull-ups in the heads, in the bathrooms. Install crossbars. You can also do pull-ups in the laundry room where they hang laundry. Get laundry duty so you're always near those pull-up bars. Push-ups in the compartments, lunges and plyos in the compartment. Absolutely, man. That's the way you do it. Do wall sits in the back of the room in class time. All right. There you go. All right, guys. I got to go. I appreciate your time. This has been a long one, over an hour already. I appreciate your questions. I'm going to be writing a Ask Stu article tomorrow. Probably use one of these. So I do appreciate your questions. They give me ideas to write stuff about. And you guys make me a better coach. So appreciate it. You guys go to StuSmithFitness.com. And if I missed your question, I apologize. Email me, Stu@StuSmith.com right here. You guys see that? Stu@StuSmith. Going by the ticker. And go check out StuSmithFitness.com for programs and articles and things like that. I appreciate your time. You guys have a good one. See you next week.